Welcome to another episode of EasyHealthyBread.com. This week I'm going to make a delicious roll recipe that has a little surprise inside from a 100% whole wheat French bread recipe. So we're going to make this in our mixing bowl today. So we're going to start with a half cup of just warm water, just a little bit above body temperature, and 2 teaspoons yeast. So we're just going to mix that right in there. Then we're going to take 2 teaspoons of salt, and we're going to add it and our flour to the bowl. So this is about 6 cups of flour. By weight, it's 900 grams. That's going to be the most accurate way to measure it out. I've already pre-measured mine, so I'm just going to put it right into my bowl, like this. And then we're also going to add the salt in as well. And we're just going to give the arms of it a little bit of a swirl to mix it all in there. There we go. And the salt. And just swirl that around like that. You don't even need it on the mixer to do that. Okay, so we're going to take our bowl here, and we're going to add about 2 cups of, again, warm water in. And we're going to add a tablespoon of honey. Probably going to need my fork to get that off here. And like I said, you just want to use water that feels just a little bit warmer when you touch it. That means it's a little bit above your body temperature, and it's going to start to dissolve in there pretty quick. And then 1 egg. Pop it right in there. Then I'm just going to take my fork and beat up that egg and mix this together. And get that honey kind of unglobbed up. It's kind of clumped in there, and you want to try and break it up a little bit. And you'll feel it sitting on the bottom of your bowl, but with a fork like this works perfect. Just get in there, you can kind of break it up. You always want to beat an egg before you add it to a mixture like this, because it won't mix up like you want it to. And then now we're just going to add the yeast and the water that we already mixed together. You're going to want to take your fork and just make sure you get out all the yeast you can. It tends to kind of stick in there. So we're going to add this liquid to the flour, and I'm going to knead it on my machine for about 10 minutes. You're going to want to start slow, let it get incorporated, and then turn it up to medium speed. If you're kneading by hand, it's probably going to take about 20 minutes of kneading. Just right on the counter is fine. You can put water on your hands if it's getting sticky to add a little more water into it. But I'll show you what it looks like after we're done kneading it, and then we're going to set it to rest for about 75 minutes. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we have pulled the dough off my mixer. Mine took about 12 minutes, and the way I tested it is using the window pane method. I've talked about it in some previous episodes, but I'll show you how to do it again right now. So to test and see if your dough has been kneaded enough, you can just take a piece of the bread and form it into kind of a little ball. This dough is pretty sticky, and you just want to pull it, and if you can keep pulling it until you can see through it and it doesn't rip. See, mine ripped right there, but I can pull it really, really thin before it rips. And it's like almost see-through, and you can just see the little flecks of bran in there, then you know you've kneaded it enough. So we're going to move this just into a plain bowl like this. You might need a spatula to help you. And we are just going to move it into this bowl, and then we're going to rest it. So just kind of peel it out there. It comes off pretty easily. It's just, there's a lot you can see. And it might be easier just to use your hands instead of the spatula. Just depends on preference. So get your dough in there. I'm going to kind of shape it into a little bit of a ball with my hands just by going like this around the edges so it's just nice and cohesive. And we are going to cover this lightly with some plastic wrap, and we're going to rest it for 75 minutes in a warm place. So what I've done to create my warm place is I preheated my oven for just a few minutes, turned the oven light on, and then what I did was I popped my instant read thermometer in the oven. You can actually break them doing this, so just leave it in until it reads. And I stopped it when it was a little bit over 100, knowing that I had to finish kneading and get it ready and put it in there, so it's probably between 190 degrees now. 190, not 190. So you can just put it in, lightly covered like this, for 75 minutes, and then we're going to shape them into the rolls. So I'll catch you back after the 75 minutes. Okay, we're back. It's been just a little over 75 minutes, and you can see my dough has risen quite a bit. It's actually going to stick to the top of my my saran wrap here, which is fine. So the way you can tell if your dough is done is you want to get your finger a little wet and put a hole in, and as long as it doesn't start filling in the hole, maybe the dough even falls a little, you want to try and catch it before doing that creates a fall in the dough. And I've caught mine just about right in time, but the indentation that I made, you can see right here, is not filling in, so you know that it's risen enough. So now we are going to make our rolls. So you're going to want to take off any jewelry you have on your hands. And I've put out just a little bit of coconut oil here. I'm just going to take a little bit and rub it between my hands, and it will melt at body temperature easily. And this is just going to make shaping these a little bit easier. So don't be afraid to add some more. We're probably going to have to add a little bit more throughout. I've got a piece of parchment paper set up here and a little bit of cheese that I've cut up into blocks. So that's the little surprise inside. We're going to put a little bit of cheese inside each roll. Just kind of add them, make them a little different. So you're just going to want to grab a little bit of dough. See, this much. And we're just going to shape it the same method we've used on any other dough, like that. But we're going to take this cheese, and we're going to push it right into the center like that, till it's almost at the top there, and we're just going to fold around. And when it bakes, it's just going to melt in there, and it's going to be awesome. You can't even tell. And we're going to set one down. So we're just going to keep pulling off a little dough, starting a little bit of shaping, grabbing some cheese, putting it on the underside there, really putting it in, and folding it over the cheese like that. And if your hands are starting to stick, if the dough is starting to stick, you can just add a little bit more oil to your hands. It's not a big deal. Works perfectly like that. And we're just gonna make as many as you want. You can make them any size you want. You do kind of want to try and make them about the same size. This one's a little bit bigger than those, so they'll bake evenly. And if you're worried about that, or you need them all the exact same size for some reason, you can absolutely get out your kitchen scale and make them 2, 3, 4 ounces depending on how big. They are gonna get bigger than this, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to raise them and bake them right on this parchment sheet, so make sure you leave some room in between for them to expand, because we are going to rise them one more time before they go in our oven. So I'm just going to keep shaping these rolls and putting the cheese in the center. To get them prepared for baking, what we're going to do is put this in another warm, draft-free place, not the oven this time, on their cookie sheet. We're going to rise them for about 40 minutes in a warm place, as best as you can do. I'm going to put mine actually on top of my stove because it has some residual heat from the oven there. And then we're going to preheat the oven to 450 degrees. It's a really hot oven. We actually need steam for these to get a crisp crust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have both of my racks in my oven stacked like this. So one here and one on the next lower. I have my pizza stone on the top one, and I'm going to put this pie pan filled with ice cubes on the bottom one. So when these have been raised for 40 minutes and the oven is preheated, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the rolls on top and this on the bottom, and that's going to create the steam, which is going to help get that crisp crust on the outside. So I will show you what it looks like before we put it all in, and yeah, we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. These have been sitting on top of my warming up oven for about 40 minutes, and now we're just going to slash them before we put them in the oven. So that just lets them rise a little bit more in the oven, and it's kind of decorative as well. So we're going to take a serrated knife or a sharp knife that you have and carefully get the blade a little wet. Now these do have the cheese pretty close to the top, so you kind of want to feel around, make sure you're not going to do that. And you're just going to make a little mark like that. See if I can do one so I can lift it up pretty easily. But see, it's about 1/2 inch deep like that. So we're going to do that to all these rolls. If you want, you can also do the X, like the sourdough rolls that you maybe sometimes see at the store or other places. And so that would look like this guy right here. So you can kind of do any design, just one, or you can do the X, and just keep the blade wet, and that prevents it from sticking. And just try and avoid the cheese that maybe is near the top of your roll if you decide to put the cheese in. It is optional. If you don't want to do it, you certainly don't have to. These are a really good dinner roll no matter what. So it's just really quick. And then I'm going to tell you how we're going to get started with these in the oven. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this pie pan that I have, oven safe pie pan. It's a Pyrex, so I know it's fine in the oven. And you can see I put about a whole tray of ice cubes in there, and that's going to create steam in the oven, which is going to make the crust of these nice and crackling and crispy. So I'm going to stick these and this in the oven at the same time. This one's going to be on the bottom rack. This one's going to be on top of my pizza stone in the top rack. Pizza stone optional, but I just leave mine in my oven all the time. And I'm going to bake them at 450 degrees. And then we're going to actually turn it down to 350 degrees after 15 minutes. And then we're going to continue baking them until they're done. That'll be about 210 degrees in the center, which I'll check with my instant read thermometer, which I don't know if you're noticing, but I use it for a lot in the kitchen. So valuable tool that's cheap and works well. So I'm going to put these in the oven, and we'll be back when they're out and hot and ready. Okay, we're back, and I've pulled the rolls out of the oven. So my rolls took about 17 minutes. I had the oven at 450 degrees, and that's going to give you a nice chewy crust, but the interior is still going to be soft. A couple of them, the cheese started coming out of the top, but it's not really that big of a deal, and it's just kind of a peek at what's inside. So let's open one up, and you can see that they're nice and soft inside, and then you've got some cheese in there. So this one, the cheese was kind of in this area and over here, and it's got that nice French bread crust that's like a little chewy, not crunchy, but just a little chewy, and then a really soft interior that's delicious with a little cheese popped in there. I really hope that you've enjoyed this easy, healthy, whole grain roll recipe. And please check out my YouTube channel, subscribe, and check out my website, www.easyhealthybread.com, where I post all my recipes, the full write-up, and tons of tips and information. Thanks for watching.